Thank you for coming to the Ward 4 Neighborhood Advisory Board meeting. We are starting now at 6:02. If you would like to give public comment on today's agenda, please fill out the public comment form up front and return it to me. Thank you. Madam Chair, it is 6:02 if you're ready to call a meeting to order.
Am I unmuted?
There you go.
There you go. Hi, this is Kelly Orr. I'd like to call the meeting.
Thank you. If you can speak up just a little bit more too, we're having a hard time hearing you.
Kelly Orr for the record.
Perfect.
I'd like to call the meeting. Read the meeting minutes. Sorry, I'm not. It keeps going in and out, so I apologize.
All right, anything? Okay, sorry about that. And if you're ready, I can call for a quorum. Call attendance. Okay.
Yep, I'm ready for the attendance for the quorum.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Councilman Johnson, not present today. Kelly Orr,
Present.
you, Jared Sullett,
Present.
John White,
Present.
Rebecca Flannery, present. Victoria Luck, present. Ernest Burdick, not present at this time. Larissa Winning, not present at this time. Kelsey Meno, not present at this time. Council Liaison Megan Ebert, present. Thank you. And I am the staff liaison, Jennifer Alvarez, here with Mackenzie, who is our intern. Madam Vice Chair, you have a quorum of the Ward 4 Neighborhood Advisory Board.
Thank you. Moving to item 2A2, opening public comment. Do we have any public comment?
Thank you. And for the record, I'd like to tell you that Member Kelsey Meno is present.
Thank you.
Madam Vice Chair, our first item today is public comment, but before we start that, if we could do the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And prior to the commencement of our meeting, Councilmember Ebert would like to make an announcement.
Yeah, there was a little girl in the Cold Springs community who passed away recently due to abuse at home. And the city of Reno will be turning the Believe Side blue for domestic or childhood abuse awareness month, which is awful that we have a month for that. But just in remembrance of Isabella Loving, we're going to take a moment of silence before we start. And Flannery, now member Flannery lives in the Cold Spring community, and I would just like to ask her to say a few words if she wants to.
It's been horrible for everybody. We did have a vigil for her Friday. Many people came out, lots of bikers, it was amazing. And I want to thank Councilmember Ebert for coming and giving a little speech to our community. I know that the community really liked that because I don't think they felt like anybody else really did. And I would like to thank Ms. Ebert here for her contribution in getting us a proclamation for Isabella. She now has a day to extend the month dedicated to her and her memory. So we are hoping justice comes soon, but it is served correctly, and Angel, she finally got to have a word. She finally got to have a say in this, her short little life. So thank you, Megan. Appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you. Madam Vice Chair, we'll move on to public comment. Our first item today is public comment. Members of the public may hear, observe, and provide public comment virtually by registering through the following link, which can be found on reno.gov/meetings. That is https://links.reno.gov/3D55MNA. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the NAB's agenda. The NAB may not take action upon any matter not agendized on today's agenda. When you are called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name, and you will be afforded 3 minutes. If you're an attendee in the Zoom meeting and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand at this time. Madam Chair, we have no public comment.
Thank you. Are there any participants who would like to give public comment? And thank you if there's any comments. We can, oh, go ahead, sorry. None at this time. Since we have no public comment, we'll proceed to item A3. That is approval for the agenda. Staff liaison, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no, Jennifer Alvarez, for the record, there are no changes to the agenda.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the 4/17 agenda with identified changes?
Jared Souther, for the record, I'd like to motion for approval for the agenda for April 17th, 2025.
John White seconds.
Thank you. Thank you. Next time, I apologize for the incorrect date. Thank you for the correction for March. And then next time we'll have, today we'll have item A4 as approval for the minutes.
Vice Chair, you'll need approval from everyone, so if you could say all in favor, say aye.
Sorry, thank you. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
All right, and sorry, are there any, there's no changes? Just wanted to make sure for the minutes for moving forward. Everything is a little blurry, so on my end, so I apologize for the disconnect in the time it takes. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you. If we can move on to item A4.
Perfect. So A4, approval for the minutes for possible action. Is that, yep, that's where we're at. Are there any changes to these minutes? And if we can get a motion to approve the 3/20/25 minutes with proposed changes.
Madam
It's really-
Vice Chair, there are no changes to the minutes.
Perfect. Can I get a motion to approve the 3/20/2025 minutes?
Motion or approved for the minutes for March 2020.
Rebecca Flannery seconds.
For all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you. We can move on to item A5, council liaison report from Council Member Ebert.
Yes, so I kind of handed these or went around with these papers earlier for the 2025 Reno Community Survey that's happening. It's open until April 30th. And we're having kind of a low participation in Ward 4. So just make sure you fill it out, reach out to friends and family in the area and ask them to participate too. This is really helpful for us to, at the city, know where our priorities should be, what areas need resources and attention. So just make sure you get that filled out if you haven't already. If you want one of these little flyers, I have some with me in my purse I can give you to hand out, maybe coworkers, things like that too. But just want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to participate in that. We had a council meeting last week. There was 2 public hearings. We also have directed staff on some budget modifications. We will have a deficit in the city of Reno budget, which will affect some of our boards and commissions, potentially NABs and things like that going forward as we try to figure out how to modify the services and things that the city was able to do and provide for the community. So that was on last council meeting. If you would like to review it, that will be ongoing before we fully adopt the budget. And next month, we will have the redevelopment agency board vote on the GSR tax incremental financing request for the potential new GSR stadium. So just want to keep that on everybody's radar. That'll be May 21st, I believe. So those are the updates we have for now. I know Jen has a lot of information to share as well.
Sure, we can move on to item A6.
Okay, thank you. We'll now be moving on to our business items.
No, Madam.
Oh, wait,
Vice-
nope.
A6.
Yep, A6, the next item is staff liaison report. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer Alvarez, Council Relations Liaison for the record. I have a presentation to share with you. I wanted to share with the Ward 4 community that the cleanup, the biggest little cleanup is April 26th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. It'll be at O'Brien Middle School. This location will not accept hazmat or e-waste, but there are other cleanups within the city that will be accepting that type of waste if you have it. If you'd also like to volunteer for the Ward 4 cleanup, there is a way that you can. And if you go to our website, reno.gov, and you click on community, then there's a section called community cleanup. You can sign up to volunteer. We're always looking for volunteers, so that would be great. And it's a great way to engage with the community. There's also another event. It's not necessarily in your ward, but it is with the city. And it's a free event for the community on April 26th. It will also occur from 9 to 12. There will be free classes, open play, food trucks, and more. So it'll be a great time. And as Councilmember Ebert mentioned, we are needing participation for the community survey. So we encourage you to tell your friends, tell your family to sign up and provide us with that information. Regarding board membership updates, we have 2 NAB member vacancies and then 2 alternate NAB members. We also have community champions. I want to thank Ms. Finery for, I believe you sent one to us. Yes, so hopefully we'll be able to get that one on a future agenda.
Sorry, Rebecca Flannery for the record. It was slightly difficult because not technically, it was like more of like his organization, not like an individual, but it's his. So it was a little bit tricky to.
Thank you. It's perfect. We appreciate it. And newsletters, we always encourage you to sign up for all the newsletters the city has to offer, especially your award That way you know what's going on, and there's also a development projects newsletter. That one's super important because as you know, Reno's growing, so it's great to be informed on what projects are coming to your ward and the additional wards as well. If you ever want to report any type of non-emergency service, you are welcome to contact Reno Direct. I brought some cards too, so if you want to share them with your friends, you can. We have people available to answer calls from 9 to 4, Monday through Friday, and you can always submit those requests online as well. Upcoming meetings, our next council meeting is next week at 10 a.m. at City Hall. The Planning Commission will meet on May 8th at 6 p.m. And depending, as Councilmember Ebert mentioned, the Ward 4 NAB will be May 15th at 6 p.m. here at the Stead Airport. And that is my update.
Thank you, Jennifer, Staff Liaison Jennifer. We'll now be moving on to our business items.
Can I ask a quick question? I missed something. What might prevent us from meeting in May?
Just what Councilmember Ebert mentioned earlier with
The budget, there might be a change in the kinds of meetings we have. I'll still have a community meeting, but it might not be a NAB in the way that we're used to it now. We're gonna kind of, we haven't decided anything officially yet, but the structure might be changing. So just to put that on your radar, we haven't technically voted on anything yet. I personally want to keep the NAB as close to the structure as possible. But that's gonna kind of be continuing on the vote of the entire body at council.
Is it okay if I ask another question and follow up? Because as I see the news, we're talking, you know, Washoe County Library, City of Sparks, all these municipalities are now saying we're coming in a budget deficit. What leads to that? Like, what is the underlying cause? Is it lack of taxes? Is it something else that we just don't yet know?
Well, there's a lot of parts of it. One of them is that something called the C tax, which is one of the ways we get a lot of our revenue, came in lower than projected. And even if our C tax amount doesn't decrease, if it's flat, it's like having less come in because everything costs more. Supplies for filling potholes, for doing construction, all of these things cost more. So that's part of it. And just the tax revenue in general coming in has gone down. The room tax has gone down, so people are not coming here as much. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but we've kind of gone through the ARPA funds, and there's kind of a slump with the economy. And since that's where the majority of our revenue comes from, we're just starting to feel it now. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. So there's going to be some potential reduction in services and things like that. We're trying to do everything we can at the city to save revenue just by freezing open positions. I know that the city manager has asked every department within the city to cut back 5% of expenses. So we're really just trying to find ways to, keep things going without, a negative impact because of the lower revenue than expected. So I know that there's some talk about, every legislative session about changing our property tax structure. There's a lot of people that think that's the reason for these budget issues with the depreciation and the no reset when the houses resell. I don't have an official comment on that, but that's just something that gets brought up. And also there was somebody at the legislative session who's trying to move forward a bill that would make a regional fire department in Reno, which could potentially have an additional assessment on our taxes to cover that. But that would be, whether you call it an assessment or a tax, it would be more money that people are paying on their property taxes. So there's just a lot of reasons and a lot of different things happening in the background right now regarding that. So, wish I had like more specific answer, but it's not just kind of one thing. So.
Refinery, can I add to that? I feel like NAB, I know it costs hourly and supplies, but I feel like NAB's probably the bottom feeder of revenue waste, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And we currently only have one liaison for all of us, so we have one person that needs to help everybody. And, she does all of the work to get the agendas together, like everything posted, all of that stuff. So it takes a tremendous amount of time for her to do the NABs for all of the wards. So, you know, it's a big chunk of time. So potentially we'll have more of like community meetings instead of a public community meeting. We can still have the same people there and everything, but it might not have the same support from staff, just depending on what happens in the future. Because these meetings are extremely important to me. I'll still ask people to come and give presentations if they have developments and stuff, but we just might have a different level of support from staff.
Thank you.
Are we now ready to move on to business items?
Yes, Vice Chair.
Perfect, thank you. First business item, B1, 2025 Annual Reno Police Department Chiefs Update.
Yes. Sorry. I just turned the microphone. Just, yeah, it'll switch on.
Is that on?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like I'm echoing. Do I really need it? Okay,
You don't have to if you don't want to, but.
can I just talk without it?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me okay if I just talk?
Perfectly.
Okay. Because I feel like I'm very echoey. Like that was a little bit much for me. There is a clicker up here, but does it work or are you doing it over there?
Okay. We never use it, so I don't think.
Well, I won't play with it.
We can.
No, I'll leave it alone. Let's see.
No.
We'll just be like, Catherine Nance, Chief of Police for Reno Police Department for the record. Thanks for having me. A couple things that to start off with and to lead with is that we are changing some of the ways that we started before about how we're presenting at NABS and the data that we're providing and the information to make sure that you're getting things that are relevant and important to you and making sure that what we're giving you has relevancy for your ward and for what you want to see. So if there is, I don't know what the future of these are going to hold, so I'll just leave that on the table. But if there is things that you want to see or data or information, if you provide that over to the liaison, we can work. If it's information we keep, we can work on making sure that that's provided to you. Because as you know, it's really not a comparison ward to ward about what you're seeing here, because each ward, every neighborhood, every street has different issues and concerns and things. So to compare what your things look like that are happening here to what looks like somewhere else, it's really not an apples to apples comparison. So I just want to make sure that the information we give you is important and relevant to what you want to see in things that you're seeing in issues. So that's, I'm going to lead with that. And then you can tell the liaisons and we can provide that information if it's something we keep. So I'm going to go over as we change to kind of that process. You'll see other officers here a couple times a year, and then I'll be here once a year to give a annual department update, usually around the same time that we're getting ready to put out our annual report. A little preview in this space, but a lot of the stuff you're going to see here will also be in that space. We can go start. So every year we provide what are our goals, our fiscal year goals, to the council for the budget book and for presentation to say what are we trying to accomplish, what are our ultimate goals here, and what are we going to try and work on for the next fiscal year. So these were our goals for last fiscal year. We're obviously coming up on the end of it. I will say that number 4, we can check off the list and say that I just accidentally called somebody, so I won't do that again. I don't know how I did that. They're like, are you calling me on purpose? No, I don't want to talk to you right now. So with that being said, we can check number 4 off the list. We moved into the new public safety center. We're fully in there. Demolition on the old police department will start in the next week. So we are all the way in. So we fully accomplished goal number 4. It's always nice to have one fully accomplished goal off your list. With that, the rest of the stuff that's up here, we're in the process of. We really have worked on what that looks like. I would say number 3 with the matrix deployment study is also probably pretty much done. We got the study back in August. And when we did that, we were able to say that how are we deploying personnel? How are we deploying our resources?
The police department does not deploy resources based on council wards. We don't look at that really at all when we're looking at how we're going to deploy, because our boundaries are based on not population as these are. So a lot of the wards are decided based on voting population. So you know how many people and try and equal that out. We look at it based on where are crimes happening, what is response needed. So we might have an area of town that needs a smaller policing district and another area of town that could be a bigger one. Inside our policing districts, we have what are called beats. So they're smaller areas that are divided up where we assign officers and deploy our resources into those spaces. And those sometimes even can cross council districts. So that's kind of an interesting fact. So while you might have a beat in your ward, it might actually encompass 2 or maybe even 3 wards, depending on what that beat looks like. With that, we looked at how are we responding, what are we already deploying resources, what are the schedules, what are the days off, what are the times that we need people, and that's how we deployed. So in October, we made some pretty major changes to that deployment strategy, and then as any good plan comes to fruition, sometimes they're not great, and we have to go, well, that didn't work quite the way we wanted to. So we made some adjustments, and we actually next week will do a changeover of shifts again. We do that every 6 months, and we even adjusted that plan from there to make sure that we're better deploying resources. So I'm going to say that after we look at this for a couple months, by the end of the fiscal year, I think number 3 is going to be completely checked off too. So I'm excited about that. The other ones that are up here, working on our real-time information strategy and how we're driving our data for that. I will go into that a little bit later. And our wellness program. So we received a federal appropriation of $1.5 million last year. And that appropriation, we actualized the money in October, and council approved that into our budget. And that is a wellness or peer support and mental health grant that helps us to provide resources to our officers that maybe they don't have access to. With that, we were able to outfit the gym at the police department that wasn't budgeted into the build of the police department, but we were able to outfit the gym fully. All that equipment came in this week. It was one of our first purchases. So we now have a full gym for staff inside that organization to use. Next steps are to work on mental health resiliency. We were able to send some people to a IACP, International Association of Chiefs of Police, did a wellness class, a big symposium on wellness, and we were able to send some people there to come back with some new ideas. We're going to bring in some guest speakers. We're also going to work on what does physical wellness look like, bringing in physical and occupational therapists to help our officers work throughout their career in a safe and effective manner, utilizing all the equipment that they use, getting in and out of a car, being involved in physical altercations. How can we better support them in their physical wellness? And so we're going to bring in some experts for that. So it's probably going to stay on our list of goals for the next year as we just actualize that money, and we think that's going to happen. So we'll go on to the next slide. So one of the ways that we do this is we use a directed engagement and enforcement deployment strategy, or DEEDS. When I first came to the police department, we did not have a policing model that we were using. How we deployed resources wasn't necessarily talked about. So we didn't really have a way to say, where do we need to be? How do we deploy those resources in the most effective manner? So we as a group developed a plan, looked at a lot of what other agencies were doing in a way that we can use our intelligence-led policing model to drive how we're deploying our extra resources. Next slide, please. These are the goals of DEEDS. It's really to say, how do we provide a safe environment for people that are living here? And that last square should really say Visit Reno. When we did this, we did it as a pilot program in downtown exclusively because it was easy for us to kind of manage that area. We already had resources there for the first 6 months that we were exclusively. Now we travel around and move. So that last slide really should say Reno, not just one area, because we really are everywhere now. That was just the pilot program that we were really downtown. And the idea is that we need to figure out what are prevention mechanisms that we can deploy to prevent people from being victimized, victims or victimized by crimes. With that, it's what businesses are maybe being victimized, what type of people, what group of people, what are we seeing for victims? How do we stop that from happening? And then what kind of enforcement strategies can we deploy that will target criminal behavior and activity? That might be figuring out a way to stop some sort of criminal behavior in an area. It also might be a way of determining who is driving the violence or different crimes in our community and targeting those individuals to making sure that we have those arrests to stop that type of stuff. But it's really, the point of it isn't just to go into an area and provide blanket enforcement. It's to look at a neighborhood or a community and say, what type of enforcement should we be doing there? What does the community need for us to help them be successful long-term? And then how do we identify those people that we can stop from doing a behavior or being victims of a crime and target that enforcement exclusively to them as opposed to doing more blanket enforcement? So we're using our resources to identify this so we can really put our resources to their best effort. We talked a little bit about what budget's going to look like next year. We know that we are facing budget cuts and we're not going to grow in maybe the way that we want to. I will not ever use with the people that work for me the concept of doing more with less, because that is a terrible concept. As a business owner, an employee, you know what that means to you. When somebody says that means you just have to work harder with less resources, with less money. It just really isn't a good way to motivate people to do more. What I like to say is, and it also doesn't work. What I like to say is we need to be more efficient at the resources we have and use those resources in a more efficient and effective manner. So that might mean that some things aren't going to get done. It might mean that people do have to do things differently or more, but really, how can we be more efficient with the resources we have to ensure that we're providing the best level of service that we can? Next slide. So every month we meet together as a group and we look at where should we be? What should we, should we be providing resources based on heat maps, crimes that are anticipated to happen, and crimes that have happened in the past. We look at data for the last 6 months to see what's driving crime in a certain neighborhood or area. We then look at what happened last year at this time. So we can look at trends that might be more weather or event related. And then we look at what do the people that are working these areas that are going to be providing the service, where do they think they can be most effective and what are they seeing on the street? Data and analytics provides us a snapshot, a point in time. It provides us an idea of where to start. But more importantly than that, or just as importantly, we need to talk to the people that are actually going to go out and do the work and say, what are you actually seeing in these neighborhoods and areas and where should we deploy? So every month we meet and we look at 3 different areas. We have a big, robust conversation with all of the different representatives from different groups in our department. All of our proactive teams, our patrol teams, traffic, they're all represented in that room. And they talk about where they want to go and why. And they have to work that out amongst themselves. I don't get involved because frankly, I'm not doing the work out there on the street like they are. They have to go on, be the ones that are going to do that enforcement. They know what's expected of them. They're going to have deliverables, and then they're going to come back and bring me that information about what they accomplished. So me telling them where to go doesn't work nearly as well as me letting them come to that conclusion by themselves. So we get a little heated in there sometimes, and somebody usually leaves a little sad that we didn't pick their area. Sometimes we do have consensus where we all agree that we're going to go to one place. So it's a fun dialogue to watch between everybody. So in January, we chose this area. This map represents hotspots. The areas are where we're seeing an increased calls for service or crimes or citizen initiated calls for service. This does not mean this is the most dangerous place in Reno. This just means that this is an area that our analysts say, we think we can be effective if we move into this area. And this is the one that they chose. This is the Ori Park area. Next slide, please. The month after that, we chose Keystone. So this is, I love to show this map because it shows it's not just, a square. It's where, when we're in the room having that conversation, we look at it and go, well, maybe because this area of Dickerson's very much so attached and it's a dead end. If we attach it to this, it will provide an opportunity to get to maybe a place where we're not seeing as many resources. So this map changed completely. We added a little area. We moved one of the boundaries over because we thought that might be more effective. And that's the kind of conversations that we have. This is where we were in February. Next slide. And this is where we are currently. We actually have a meeting next week. Today's Thursday, right? Yeah, next Thursday. Next week to discuss where we're going to go for April. So we're kind of off on our days, the way that the calendaring and scheduling works. We call this March, but it really runs a couple weeks into April. Easiest way to understand it, so everybody kind of remembers where we're at. So right now we're in the Diamonds Casino area based on things that they were seeing, an increase of activity and behaviors there that we wanted to to make a stop to. What I will say is, so we sit in the room, we have a conversation about where we're gonna go, and then everybody, the representatives and supervisors in that space, they say, what are we going to do to be effective in that area? So we look at what types of crimes are happening, what types of things that we can provide resources. It's not just the Reno Police Department that does this, it's also our Clean and Safe team through the city of Reno. Our park rangers come with us out there and they do that if there's any parks in the neighborhood. And then they also do, the last group is code enforcement comes out and they'll handle some of the blight related issues that we might be seeing our service requests. With that, so we come into the room and we say, well, okay, you run the gang unit. What are you gonna do? And that representative of the gang unit has to stand up and say, we're gonna do these things. We write them down. The next month when we come back and we do what's called deliverables, they provide us their data and stats. And then we look at what they said they were gonna do. And did you actually accomplish that? And that's the accountability side of it. They have a deliverable, we hold them accountable, and publicly in front of their peers and other groups, they say what they did or didn't do. Sometimes we might have a major gang incident in another area, so they couldn't focus here because they had to go do something else. That's understandable, and we know that. But they do have to say those words that they had to do something different and didn't accomplish their goals. A little peer pressure helps in that. If somebody else accomplished their goals and that group didn't, sometimes, you know, they get a little at each other's throats, kind of cute, like to watch that. And then we come back the next month and make sure that somebody did it. So it's a fun, robust conversation, but it's been very effective. What we've found overall is as we're in these areas, crimes, property crimes and violent crimes have a significant decrease. It's not an apples to apples comparison because one area might have a lot of stolen vehicles maybe. So maybe we see that decrease, but another area didn't have stolen vehicles. So I can't measure just stolen vehicles. I have to look at the totality of it. So one of those ways that we measure that is in calls for service. What we find, and it seems kind of common sense, is that as officers are conducting enforcement in an area, our proactivity and our officer initiated calls for service rise. And our citizen initiated or citizens that have to call, community members that have to call and say that they're reporting a crime, those usually decrease. We also see a decrease in traffic accidents. We see a decrease in violent crimes. And we see just a decrease that people feel that they need to call the police for help because police are probably already there handling the problem. So it's very effective way to do this. It's a deployment model that's working for us. But like every other good thing that you do for a while, sometimes you have to make adjustments and changing. So annually, we reevaluate to see how we could do this better. Move on to the next slide. Real-time information center. Again, this was one of our deliverables, one of the things we wanted to do. This is an opportunity for us to look, it's partnership with ourselves, with the Reno Police Department and Sparks, to create this centralized hub and data and resources that we can look at when we're looking at either solving crimes that happened in the past, preventing crimes that haven't yet happened, or looking at in-progress crimes when they're occurring. So this is using really advanced data technology and a lot of camera systems and software programs that put all this information into one hub so that we can very quickly look things up and find it. This is also coupled with a gunshot detection system that we purchased with ARPA funds. The City Council approved this late last year, right at the end of when we could approve ARPA funds. We were very lucky to find some money that wasn't being spent elsewhere, put it into a gunshot detection system. It's a 1 mile radius that we can utilize. That's a fixed post that we're going to use. But with that contract, we also received 2 trailers that we can move around if we're having gunshots in any specific area or gun-related crimes in a specific area for that instant response. Gunshot detection systems send an email directly to, or I'm sorry, not an email, a notification, I don't know why I said email, a notification directly to our dispatch center, and the dispatch center generates a call for service and immediately starts the process of dispatching a unit before somebody calls it in. Some of you in this room might have been at your house or driving down the street or at an event. You think, did I hear gunshots? Was that gunshots or fireworks? Should I call? Should I not call? I don't even know what I had heard. Somebody else will call. I'm not going to get involved. That happens more than you ever would know. And it's a very common response. Human nature is like, it's fine. We miss a lot of that because we don't get those reports. And this is an instantaneous report to dispatch, allows us to send an officer at the same time, activates a camera where we can see what we're responding to if a car is leaving that area at a high rate of speed and put that information out. So we have a better chance of figuring out exactly what happened or recover any evidence that might have occurred because as a result of that shooting. This also allows us to, if we have a call for service somewhere, and we have cameras that are active in that area, either city cameras or business cameras, we can look at them right then and say, this is what's happening, and provide a real-time account of what's going on. It's a tremendous tool. With that, they can log in and live watch officers' body camera footage to see who they're encountering at that time. So if they're on some sort of high risk or dangerous situation, we can live watch their body camera and recognize what's happening. So if the officer were to get in foot pursuit or that person were to flee from them, we're not just taking the officer's description of a person wearing a black jacket or whatever it is. They can get rid of their jacket. They jump a couple fences. Nobody really knows who they're looking for anymore. We can immediately have looked at that person, capture a snapshot of them, and put that out to responding units to try and help identify them in that moment. Amazing technology. When I got hired, these are the things that I knew that we were lacking here, things that we were not progressive, we were not utilizing technology to its best of its abilities, and we really needed to step up our game in that law enforcement capacity. I'm very proud to say we're the first agency in Northern Nevada to have this type of technology and be using it on a regular basis, and really are seeing amazing dividends from just the small part that we have. We're looking at finding more funding for this, either through grants or federal appropriations. We were approved for a federal appropriation for this budget cycle in the federal system, but the way that the budget was approved, there is no appropriations being granted this year, unfortunately. But we have resubmitted for it, so we're really hopeful that next year we can get an appropriation that will help us fund this in a better way. So this is very exciting stuff. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you to go to the next slide because I'm just looking at it, talking, forget what I'm doing. These are kind of what they, the really big guide to why we're doing this. What does this have? All this information is on our website. You can go there and find this exact same flyer. But really, when I dive in, I talked about everything else, but want to dive into the transparency and trust. So when we are not policing effectively in different communities and we're not understanding what that community needs for us to police, it deteriorates trust in those communities. When you deteriorate trust in the communities, people don't call the police because they don't think you're going to help them. So why are they going to call? They don't report things. We don't know things are happening. And so the more trust we can build in these spaces, the better relationships we can have with our community members. Using this real-time information, our crime analysts, we can really change our enforcement mechanisms from blanket enforcement to an entire neighborhood because we know that something bad's going to happen there, to targeted enforcement to the people who are driving those crimes in that moment. And so we really can change how we're outreaching. So we're not pulling everybody over in a neighborhood. If we're looking for one person, we can much better dive in and really strategically and surgically say, this is the area that we need to be in. This is the house, this is the person. So it really does help to avoid eroding public trust by policing in a much more effective way. Next slide. So this is the QR code. We use a company called Fusus. We have a contract with them. So if you have a business or a business member and you want to help us with this camera program, or if you have a camera on your residence and you want to let us know you have it there, cameras on residences, we just like to know where they're at. So if we do have a crime, we know where to go. So we're not canvassing an entire neighborhood. We can really start to dial in where we're going. Again, it's working more effectively with the resources we have rather than having to canvass an entire neighborhood looking for cameras. We know where they're located. We can go directly to one person or send an email. And then the other system is the Fusus system. If you have a business, we contract with businesses with Fusus, partner together. It allows us access to those cameras in real time. We do not do interior businesses. I don't want to see in somebody's business. I want to see outside their business. I want to see their parking lots, the streets. I want to know what's happening. So if we have a call for service, comes up on a map that we have these 3 businesses that are in our program, I can tap into them right away and I can view it. So if a car is leaving, if something happened there, we can see it in the real time. To give you a real life example of this, we had a homicide near Believe Plaza, right across from City Hall. We have access to all of the city cameras. We were able to pull that footage, identify the suspect based on the cameras and watching the incident unfold and happen. We were able to utilize that camera system to track them, that person that committed the crime, to about 6 blocks away, and they were in custody within 30 minutes. And obviously, you know, your chance of getting a confession, your chance of understanding what truly happened in that is much greater if you have some video evidence, because you're not talking about, he said, she said, in that incident, we had some witnesses, but we didn't have any really good witnesses and a lot of them had left. So that time that my detectives would have been spending looking for witnesses, tracking them down, trying to identify this person was stopped because we actually saw what happened and we were able to find them immediately after. So very successful outcomes to these types of programs. Next slide. I don't remember what operational plan. I was like, I don't know what I'm talking about next. I did this once and then I just sent it over. I never looked at it again. So one of the things I'm super proud of that we did this year, the Reno Police Department's never had a strategic plan. So anybody that has a business or has worked in a business, you know how important a strategic plan is. It's what are we doing? What are we driving our information to? What are we putting our resources at? What are we asking for money for? We have to have a plan. Otherwise, you just have a bunch of knee-jerk reactions all over the place, but nothing is really coming to one space. So I've done strategic planning. I worked for another police department for 26 and a half years and came here and was like, let me read the strategic plan. And in my hiring process, I reached out to HR. I said, I can't find the strategic plan anywhere online. I know you guys have one, but can you tell me where it's at? Because I'm sure there's one for the police department somewhere. And they said, well, there isn't one. And I said, well, have we ever had one? And they said, no. And I'm like, how is that possible? So for me, this was like very important. It took a little while to get off the ground because I had to, since they'd never had one, I had to get everybody on board with how we were going to even develop one. Worked with an amazing company, had a person there that understood all of our talk. They heard all of our words and they put this into an amazing plan. Next slide. And gave us an idea of how we're going to do this. So what's new? We're going to have a new mission, vision, and values. So that's all brand new. We're keeping our same motto. We decided as a group we wanted that. This plan was developed using line level staff all the way up to me. So we worked collectively between all of us. It wasn't just me dictating what the strategic plan was. It was bringing in different members of our organization to say, what do you want to see in a strategic plan? What do you want to see in our values? I put them into working groups. We had 4 working groups. They went off and did their thing, came back with phenomenal ideas. And then we figured out how to mold that into, not a little bit different type of thing, but it was all their ideas is really what this is based on. A little direction for me, but for the most part, I didn't have to provide much because they really did come up with a lot of it. Next slide. So you get a little preview because this isn't out there in the world yet, but this will be a little bit in the annual report, and then we're going to roll it out publicly in the next few weeks. I have a couple internal meetings I'm finishing up on and a few wording things that need to change to finalize, but we're almost there. So these are our 4 goals. So we're a police agency. We're a law enforcement agency. So number one thing that we have to do, we do nothing else in the world, is we have to be proactive crime prevention and public safety. That's what we do. So at number one, that has to be number one. Some people wanted to put recruiting and things like that first. I'm like, nope. First of all, we have to be public safety because we know that intrinsically in our body, that's what we're doing. So when we talk about our priorities, sometimes you forget that's your priority because you just do it every day. You don't make that, it's like breathing, you just do it. So somebody says, what do you have to do every day? We have to breathe, but you're usually probably not going to answer that question that way. But for us, that's kind of just what we do, but we had to write it down because everybody has to see that that's what our number one goal is. 2 is service-oriented policing. How are we better at being proactive, progressive, forward-thinking, and then really solving problems and working with our community to solve problems? So can we provide better customer service while we're doing number one? 3 is working on and I'm going to say after 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all even. They really probably should be numbered. They could be just equal to each other. They're not in any specific order after 1. The empowered, engaged professional workforce. How do we recruit people? How do we bring them in? How do we make them want to stay? How do we train them? How do we give them wellness places where they feel comfortable coming to work, where they can decompress after these major incidents? How are we ensuring that their mental health is in a good space so they can go better out to serve our community? And then the last is department efficiency, and that's what we've been talking about most of this time, is how are we more efficient in what we do? Next slide. I'm going to add one thing I want to caveat into, maybe 2. No, 2. I have 2. 1, staffing. I get this question a lot. Allocated number of officers are 363. We are at a time, because we run 2 academies a year, 1 in July and 1 in January. We are at a time when we are at an all-time number of low officers this time of year, here and in September, because people start to retire, we have attrition, and then I'm just now getting ready to hire for my next academy. So I'm going to be putting about 30 officers either into an academy or hiring laterals right now by July 1. Well, actually, probably by June 10th, most likely. And that'll start in the next couple of weeks, getting them on board. We are going to freeze 6 sworn positions with the next budget cycle. For us, that's about what our normal vacancy rate is, because people leave, they don't make it through the training program or through an academy. So having 6 vacancies is almost always where I'm at. So operationally, it will be an impact, but it's a manageable impact for me. I don't want to run that way forever because I do need more staffing, but this year I'm going to be okay with that. Professional staff, I have 4 vacancies right now. And so, but we're working on that hiring process. And then the next thing I want to talk about is how we deploy resources. Talked about deeds, that's one way, but the other one is through Reno Direct. So if you are talking to somebody and they know that you're on the advisory board and they say, how do I get X in my neighborhood more? It is all through Reno Direct. That is the best way that you can do it. Reno Direct is not for emergencies. If you're having an emergency or there's a crime in progress, please call 911 or report it appropriately. But if you have a problem with every time you drive home, you see that somebody runs the stop sign there every day. You are like, every day I come here and somebody's running that stop sign. Reno Direct. So my traffic unit, which is usually a lot of my Reno Direct, not all of it, graffiti's probably 2. And then some problem neighborhoods or houses kind of falls in probably to 3. But traffic is usually one of the biggest Reno Direct cases that I get is our traffic unit, our motor unit, they deploy 4 ways every time. This is how they do it. Number 1 is Reno Direct. So if there's traffic related Reno Direct calls, they will respond to that area or provide a response within 48 hours. With the caveat, if you call and say, on Wednesdays when school gets out at noon, this is a problem, they're not going to go on Saturday and do it, right? They're going to go on Wednesday. So there might be a little bit longer, but they have 48 hours, they should touch that Reno Direct complaint. So they spend a portion of their time handling Reno Direct complaints. They go to areas where we're seeing a high number of collisions or a high number of fatality collisions, and they try to impact those areas. So if you're seeing a collision in one place, they might not go there to write tickets. They might go a couple blocks away to catch the problem before it gets to there. So speeding is a good example of that. There's a dangerous turn. They're probably not going to sit in the dangerous turn and catch the speeders. They're going to catch them before they get to the turn. So just know that's another, they might not be sitting right there in that space, but they're going to be in that area. So where they're seeing a high number of accidents or fatalities or other collisions. The third one is the deeds area. They go to the deeds area and they do extra enforcement there as their part of the presence. And then the last one is the one that I have to give them no matter what, because traffic officers, their favorite thing in the world is to write tickets. And so the 4th one is wherever they want to go to write their tickets. I don't care. They can do it where they, and that's probably not where for any one of those other 3s are, those 3 areas are, but they love that. So they have to have some time during their day to just write tickets where they want to. So go forth and prosper, do what you want to do, write your tickets and bring it back to me. So that's how they deploy. So my plug is for Reno Direct. If you have an issue in your neighborhood, do that. If you have a problem and you're not getting results on Reno Direct, shoot an email over to the department head that you're not seeing a result from, and we will make sure that we follow up on it, because things do get lost or missed. It just happens. I'm done talking. So I'll let you ask me questions, but.
Good chance for Kelly.
Go ahead, go Kelly's question.
Thank you. I will now open questions to the board. I really do appreciate your time. I was going to start first, Kelly Orr, for the record. I really do value your time here tonight and your energy and giving an operational plan for the City of Reno Police Department. That's huge. So thank you. I, as a property manager here in town, really respect and enjoy the community engagement we get from the police department. My question to this is, you said there's 363 officers. How many do you have right now?
Right now I have about 32-ish vacancies, but
Okay.
again, that's because I am hiring to go into the next academy. So we've been through the background process. I have people that have conditional job offers. They're ready to bring them in the door. It's just because I don't have an academy starting, I can't bring them in too earlier. Just really doesn't make sense logistically.
Yep, nope, thank you. And I'd like to thank you for your time and pass on any open questions to any other board members.
Rebecca Planning for the record. Thank you so much for being here. You've got some amazing stuff going on here. This is so wonderful. I'm wondering, like the deeds, so I've noticed a lot more, especially I pretty much catch the news on social media, but it seems like there's a whole lot more crime. And I'm just wondering, is it because you guys now have all this capability to catch it? Is deeds in effect for all these arrests that you guys have been making recently?
So I would caution against using media or social media as a gauge of crime increases, because it really isn't an accurate representation of that. So, and I'll give you an example of that. We had 3 officer-involved shootings, us and Washoe County, very close together in time. And 2 of them were in a neighborhood that was very close to one another. And I started getting, and I didn't think about it, I didn't put it together, because I knew that actually our number of officer-involved shootings in this county, not just Reno Police Department, but the county overall, have decreased steadily in the past few years, significantly decreased. So I knew that I was dealing with less. So my brain, because the way I saw it and thought about it, I didn't even think about it, because I knew I had less. But because of the proximity and the social media and the media the kind of the way that outpouring of that, people assumed that we had a ton more. And when I do a lot of media saying we actually didn't. So it's hard to say so our crime rates have, they're not, some places I'm lower. Right now I'm 12% lower in shootings than last year, and the year before, and the last year before that, so 2024. We're in 25, right? Yes. So 25, year to date, I'm like 12% less shootings than I was year to date last year at this time. Last year, I ended at about 6%, 6 or 8% less, but my homicide rate was higher. So it doesn't make any sense to me, but there's all these nuances to it, but I would not say that crime is up here to the extent that it is being portrayed at the media. That would be my kind of watch of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Victoria,
I don't know who's in charge
No,
of
I
calling
know.
names, but I don't do that, so that's your guys' job.
Victoria, left to the record, I just wanted to kind of piggyback on that. Thank you for the changes that you have brought that have been noticed. Regardless of what is being put online. I don't think a lot of people understand the breakdown of this and how impactful it is to come up with the strategy that you have come in.
Thank you.
Just want to reiterate, way to go, woman boss.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, John White. I know equestrian units are usually out of pocket of the officers, so it's difficult to maintain those, but how about the canine officers? Do we have enough? Do we need more? Is there a system to support them, to supply them? Is that all donations from outside, or how's that work?
So our canine unit does receive donations, and some of their stuff is through donations, but a lot of it is funded through the department budget. We do have a budget for that. Overtime care, maintenance of the dogs, but there is some of it that comes in through donations. So we're very lucky to have a community that's very supportive of that. We just had 2, since I've been here, there's been 3 new canines due to either retirements or, we have a dog that passed away. And so there's a lot of things that we've been trying to make sure that we are keeping up with. Right now, our canines are all dual purpose. So they are not just apprehension dogs, but they also have another purpose of a gun, a bomb, or a narcotics dog. So they also do that search and rescue dog, which is really important to me because it's not all about the apprehension. Those dogs have such a they can be so well-rounded when given the opportunity to do those other searches, and they're utilized a lot more than it's a much better tool. So we've made a decision that all of our dogs will be dual purpose dogs. We do have enough right now. We talked about adding another one. There was some talk through donations of maybe being able to do that. But with the budget the way it is, and then some of the deployment things, we're going to pause that for this year, and then we're going to move into that space next year if we're still needed.
All right, on top of that, the Mexican cartels, they're supposed to be really overwhelming this country from everything I've ever read. Is there an issue in this? Have you identified that? Has the FBI notified you of that stuff? Or do you know what's going on?
Yes, we have a really robust partnership with our federal partners. And dealing with the narcotics and drug interdiction and things like that. We have had incidents where we've had people from other countries here selling drugs or selling large amounts of drugs. We see that in the fentanyl world a lot. But we do have a very robust partnership with our federal partners to make sure that we are looking at who is here in this area that is committing violent crimes or drug sales. and making sure that we're putting a stop to that in the best way we can. Unfortunately, being here, we are in a easy to get to area unless it's snowing, and that makes it a little challenging. So that's a little bit better for us. But really with the freeways and the ways that you can get to Southern Nevada, the way you can get east and west, you do see more transportation, not just of narcotics, but we also see increased amount of human trafficking, especially in the sex trade trafficking, because of where we're at and the freeways, interchanges and systems that happen here. But we do work with our partners to make sure that we're on top of those things.
Jared Southern for the record, I'm surprised that this presentation didn't have anything about the roller skating division.
Oh, we saw that.
Video. But for those of you who didn't see that,
was fab.
April 1st, we had roller skating division downtown. Officers were patrolled by roller skates. No, thank you, Chief Nance. It's a pleasure to have you here in our community. And I've been here 21 years, and we all recognize things change and things sometimes change fast. But the direction that you're leading your department is greatly appreciated.
Thank you. If I can touch on those social media posts, I have a phenomenal team. It's 2 officers that do this, the PIO, and then we have a recruiter that helps out. Hunter is the one that usually gets put into the videos because he'll pretty much do anything. But you know, sometimes people wonder why we do that and where do we spend the time and cost and resources doing those things. And really a lot of it is we have very important information to put out. And sometimes if we do some things in a funny manner, we get followers just like everybody else does. And then it puts me to the top of your algorithm. So if I need your help identifying somebody, or I need your help with an issue that we're seeing in a neighborhood, and I put out a serious post, you're gonna see that too. But also we have to recruit, and we're recruiting in a day and age where you all know how hard it is to hire people and how hard it is to hire qualified people and retain them. We need everybody to see our post, and we want to make this a desirable place to work, not just for the, officers, people that want to be officers, that want to be on the SWAT team with the big guns and drive really fast. That's cool. That's super cool. I get it. But I also need the officers that want to help victims. I also want the officers that are going to have fun, that are going to go to kids in schools. I want a wide variety of people. I want people that look like and represent their community, and that's really how you do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jared, for mentioning that. Kelly Orr, for the record, as the Sierra Regional Roller Derby team will always happily jump in to help any officer in need on skates or training.
They saw that.
Madam President, there's additional questions from the NAB members.
Kelsey Meno for the record. You mentioned the RTIC trailers and real-time access to officer body cams. Will that footage be continuously recorded or only during deployments? And then will these systems be integrated with the existing city and business CCTV or remain isolated for specific reasons?
So we have a very specific timelines that we can keep data like that. So all of the body camera footage, if it's not associated with a call for service, it is overwritten, and I don't think it lasts more than 2 weeks. We have to maintain that cloud storage. So we only keep that for a limited amount of time. If it's not associated with a call for service or a crime, then we can delete it. And then after that, there's retention records for body camera footage. With the RTIC stuff and utilizing the footage, when we're utilizing city cameras, we do not maintain that footage for very long. We don't record it unless it's been involved in a crime or an incident that we're using. And we can only go back through the FUSIS system a limited number of days. After that, we have to go back and do the same way we would if we went to your business and said, do you still have the footage? Or maybe get a subpoena or a warrant for it if we needed it for another way. But we only have access for a very limited time in that system. And the only things that we actually store and keep is anything that's related to a crime. So that would fall into the same evidentiary rules of everything else.
Gotcha. Okay. And are you talking about, so I apologize because I don't know the specifics of it, but when you were able to access an employer's outside cameras that they've already given you permission, you said you are able to do that in real time, correct?
We can do that in real time, yes.
Okay. And so, but you would have to, how do you keep that footage if it has been involved? Are you able to like record it right then and there, or?
We have a ability to go back and access it for a very brief period of time. And I, off the top of my head, don't remember. It's less than a week. It's like 3-4 days. So if we know, so if say tonight, overnight, I don't have any monitoring the cameras, but there was a burglary at a business that we knew that had cameras, say the neighbor across the street has it. For a few days, a couple days, we could still access it and then we could record it and pull it. But if it's any farther back than that, we can't. And then we would have to go to the business to get it because it's based on their own retention sites. And we don't record anything unless it has been used in a crime. So we're not recording constantly. Way too much data storage on that one. I don't have the money for that.
Gotcha, no, understandable. And then do you, if you do end up recording it from a business, do you like let them know that you've had access to it, or how does that work?
It depends on the contract that they want to have with us. Some businesses, we can say we will only have access to your cameras if these types of crimes occur. Sometimes we have to notify them if we access them. It all is different depending on the contract that they have with the parent company, Fusus, that we contract through. So it's all dependent on that.
Okay. And then with the $1.5 million peer support and wellness grant, you mentioned that the gym and plans for mental health and resiliency, will the wellness program include confidential access to licensed therapists or mental health leave options?
We haven't determined exactly what it's going to look like yet because there is a lot of nuances to the grant. We'd have to have that grant approved. And then there is also resources through the city that employees can access through the IEP or through their insurance. IEP is not the wrong, EAP, I'm sorry. Through EAP or their insurance that provide that mental health and wellness. And then we also have a very robust labor union that does also have contracts and access for mental health awareness if they want to utilize something outside. So we have a lot of access availability for mental health providers. We also have licensed clinicians that work in our office. And so we have to decide what the best use of that money is, if it is to put it into clinical resources, or if it is better to put it into something else that we don't have access to right now. So it's kind of up in the air at this point.
Okay. And then I was looking at the latest annual report, and the soonest one that I could find, or most recent one I could find, was from 2020. So forgive me if it's a bit dated. But I saw programs like the 360 Blueprint, the CAO played key roles in early prevention and building relationships. With your most recent strategic plan, are you bringing any renewed focus to youth or unsheltered outreach?
We do both of those things on the regular basis. We do have a 2024 annual report that is out there.
I didn't find that one, and so
Yeah,
I was
that's
just looking at the 2021.
Yeah.
So, okay, perfect, thank you. That's it.
Are there any other board members that like to give public comment or give comment? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not a board member, but Councilmember Ebert for the record. I just wanted to ask, you mentioned a couple of things about we want to deploy resources where they're needed, and also the public perception is kind of skewed about what crimes are happening in different areas. I think it would be helpful for us, although I know each ward has their own different needs and issues. I think it would be helpful for us to see those kind of stats by ward, even though it's not necessarily the beat boundary, just so that we can have a better perception of what's really happening. So I know that's something that we used to get in the past, and it's something that always kind of reassured us out here, particularly to see you know, the different calls for service, the amount, what they were for, things like that. It was really helpful for us, and especially when some people do get their information from social media and the squeakiest wheel, you know, that's what everybody hears, but it's not necessarily a true reflection of what's happening. So I think it would still be beneficial to have those things, or at least provide a place where people can see those numbers so that we don't have to kind of battle that misinformation. So I just wanted to share that feedback. And also thank you for everything you do. I know you've made a lot of really substantial changes, the way things, you know, the way RBD does things. So thank you for your work. I know it's not been easy, and thank you.
I will say thank you very much for that. We've made a lot of changes. I couldn't even, my advice to somebody, if you go into a new place and start working, write down what you do, because I've forgotten all the changes we've done. I've only been here 2 years and I can't remember everything. There's been a lot of changes, and we're really working on how do we become more efficient? How are we modernizing this organization while we're balancing that between making sure that our employees are well and healthy and whole. And then making sure that we have people that are actually working and providing the level of service we want. So there's been a lot. It's been fun. I will say I say this all the time, it's been a challenge, but it has not been as big of a challenge as I thought it was gonna be, and it has been a lot more fun. So I'm loving it here. Actually, my stress level is pretty good. I have enough free time. Sometimes the council members let me take a vacation. Totally joking. They let me every once in a while. Joking. But yeah, I've been able to take a couple vacations and felt comfortable when I came back that that the world did not end. Everybody was good, and any little problems were minor and we could fix them. So I feel very supported in this space, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Totally joking. You let me take vacations. I know you do.
One other thing too, I just wanted to touch on is kind of heavier subject. I know that the majority of our homicides in Reno are usually the result of domestic violence, and it's just kind of top of mind with what happened with Isabella Loving. I know it wasn't a romantic partner that harmed her, but with domestic violence being responsible for so many deaths in the community, are there ways that we can help get more information out to people that potentially need assistance, that don't know what resources are available? Are there ways that we can support you to help you get resources, to get information out more, just so that we can bring those numbers down?
Absolutely. I think that the biggest part of this that I'd like, guys to think about when you're doing this and to pass along to people that is that generally these incidents don't happen in a vacuum. Unfortunately, the domestic violence incidents that we had in our community in the last year and a half, a substantial number of those had no prior reports of domestic violence between the two people. It doesn't mean it didn't exist. It probably did, but they weren't reporting that to the police. And same with child abuse. Usually it's not a report that we get until it becomes a tragedy. And so I would, and not necessarily a death tragedy, but still something that is still traumatic and requires an intervention by the police department. So I would say that while you're in your travels and somebody you come across, if you feel that they're unsafe, start looking for what those resources are. Our website has a lot of information on victim services that we can provide. We have a victim services unit in the department that you can reach out to at any time. You can send them a message and they're available on our website. But I think the biggest one is that if you know somebody's in a situation where they're being harmed or you're fearful for their safety, find a way to help and report that, because it's hard for us. We don't want to get in people's business. We don't want to get in their personal lives. But somebody is going to have to intervene, because that's where the tragedies lies when nobody does that. And there's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of nonprofits. There's lists of them. The Victim Services Unit has brochures that we can provide. A lot of the nonprofits have information that we can provide. But I would stress that we do have, from my policing experience, more domestic related homicides, whether they're people living together, people in a dating relationship, or estranged, than I am accustomed to handling or dealing with, because I do feel this is a very serious situation. One of the things that I'm working on somewhere in this world is what's the cause of that? How can we be more effective? We've changed our policies internally to ensure that we have a response that's in best practices of law enforcement to investigate incidents, that our investigations happen in a specific amount of time, that reports are written promptly, and that we provide a certain amount of resources. And we're really holding our officers accountable to making sure that those reports are being taken so that we can provide the best resources through the process, either the court system or us, as possible. So we've already done a lot of work on that front, and now it's to see what more can we do as a community, what more can we do through legislature to make sure that our people in our community are safe from violence.
Really, Victoria, for the record, really wanted to ask you on the legislation, but that you left off on that. As your personal opinion, not as plans or anything, what would you suggest as a legislation change that would make your guys' job easier to complete those calls and to get the reports to go further into the courts? Because I know that a lot of the times your officers write the reports, they do the groundwork, they do everything that they're capable of doing, and things still go wrong because that's out of your realm at that point.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, if we're working on grassroots things here, what could we bring to the table? What idea do you have that could come and make the most efficient change for you?
Some of the things that they're problematic for us in a lot of different ways are a lot of unfunded mandates. So the legislature will come up with an idea and say we should do this, and it's a great idea, but there's no real funding source for it or a way for us to even provide training. And so those unfunded mandates put a burden back on cities and on departments to figure out how we're gonna do that and fund it. So
So nonprofits would step up.
something needs to happen, either a nonprofit or when the legislator's making those decisions, they have to put a funding resource attached to it so that we have a bit more efficiency with that. There's a lot of things that are outside even the legislature's control because it falls into court rulings and things like that, where we sometimes have a hard time. We have a hard time on moving forward with things because there's a lot of red tape, bureaucracy and red tape. And so I would mostly caution that when you're looking and talking about new laws or legislature, that you look at what that red tape's going to entail to stop us from moving forward with it, or a lack of funding, because they have really good ideas usually, and sometimes they even put in, great laws, but then we struggle to move forward with that because there isn't a funding mechanism for that. We saw that with body camera mandates. It's a great thing to have body cameras on all our officers, but it makes us as a community responsible to bear those costs. And we are fortunate here, we have a funding source and we figured it out, but there's smaller agencies and communities that don't have that ability because now they're taking money from their budgets to fund this. And then they can't do these things over here, but they used to be able to do because they have to mandate it this way. There's only one pot of money. We're going to spend it somehow. So if you make me spend it here, it means I'm not buying this. So think about those things as you're looking for the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for all your work. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you for all your work.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
The next business item, B2 Good Neighbors Warming Center update.
Thank you, Vice Madam Chair. Just 1 second while I pull up the presentation. It was provided just a little bit late, so it's not part of your packet if you're looking for it.
Any information, anywhere, they get everything.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Lily Barron. I do not live in your ward. However, I did used to teach here, right up the street at Sierra Nevada Academy Charter School. I taught music there for 7 years. So it's nice to be back in this area. I'm a big fan of STED. I'm here just to talk to you as a community member, though I am involved in a lot of things. As far as Reno-based things, I sit on the Public Charter Committee for the City of Reno, as well as the Arts and Culture and Public Art Committee. And then I run a mutual aid program, which has a community refrigerator outside out of my house. And I'm in Ward 1 in the Diamond Casino Zone, I've just learned is what it's called. So, and I run a food pantry and community garden there for folks in that area. So I do have regular everyday interactions with folks that are struggling and in kind of a tough spot. And we have a history of, especially in the downtown corridor, kind of an overwhelming amount of people experiencing homelessness, and also a lot of different approaches as to what to do about it. However, no one quite agrees. So we this year started this idea of a warming center, which we did work on for a little while, tried to with the city and with the county, and it just didn't ever work out by the time winter came along. And so this route actually didn't really involve any government, but it did involve the faith community, other good neighbors like you and other citizens in Reno, and then other people who do similar work to what I do as far as like feeding folks, helping with laundry, things like that. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about our experience and hopefully get a good conversation going about what some alternatives to help those who are most vulnerable could be and what it could look like in Ward 4. So as I said, this began because there is one place where all of us concerned folks, especially in the downtown area, do end up meeting, which is usually at a candlelit vigil once a year for those who died while experiencing homelessness. And a lot of these deaths, though our investment in homelessness has reached over $300 million in that area, has increased. The amount of deaths with people in this population have also increased, which is not what you want to see when you spend more money. So we meet usually at this candlelit vigil for folks that may not have had family around or anyone around to wish them into the next phase. And we also have come together to do other kinds of ad hoc things, so such as going around in the middle of the night and giving folks hand warmers, soup, checking on people, making sure they're okay. And one thing that has been particularly disturbing to most of us is that there is an overwhelming amount of women, young people, and children experiencing this. This is not, and they do tend to be more well hidden, and it's a population that we don't really hear as much about. Next slide. So these are the people that got together. So it's, as you can see, a huge swath of people. We don't usually see each other in other areas. So that's Downtown Faith Leaders, which was the Methodist Church, the Lutheran, the Catholic, and the Episcopal. And then RISE, which I'm on the board for, which is Reno Initiative for Shelter and Equality. We run a women's and family shelter, as well as the Crossroads program, which is a substance use disorder shelter as well. And we have really great numbers and very low recidivism. So we felt it that we were able to, help kind of steward this kind of program. And then mutual aid groups, Hampton House Garden, which is the one that I run at my house, Laundry to the People, Family Suit Mutual Aid, which does food and outreach downtown on Tuesdays and has been doing so every Tuesday, rain or shine, for 5 years at the Believe Plaza. And then Northern Nevada Harm Reduction Alliance, who uses opiate settlement fund money to advance strategies as far as substance use disorder goes. And then Reno Heartsy, which is an online platform that has just a lot of followers that we use to disseminate information. Community volunteers from the churches and just from word of mouth. And then special thanks to the Holland Project, which is a nonprofit downtown that helped us with their van, let us use their van so we could do laundry. And Mary Ortega, who is a great friend of mine and does work for the city of Reno in their Clean and Safe. Next slide, please. So some of the background is that Washoe County does continue to lack regularly available shelter beds, even when it's nice outside. 2 days ago, there were no beds and it was 70 degrees in the daytime. So that doesn't actually seem to be that big of a contributing factor. Available beds for women and families are the most scarce, and often there are none available. So we have expressed great concern, especially in the winter months, and repeatedly testified at, county commission and city council meetings about the need for additional space, especially for women and families. And this winter was the first where homelessness was also put into an ordinance to be criminalized. So even if it were a family or a woman escaping domestic violence, they would still be subject to the same kind of criminal ticket as anyone else for being outside, even if there are any shelter beds available. And so no municipalities were in agreement about providing additional shelter space, even knowing this has been a pattern over the last several years. And so we decided to, why not act as a community and see if we can figure this out by ourselves. So we did. So the problems, again, unhoused single women and families have the fewest beds. Many women that do end up going to CARES do report experiencing violence and not feeling unsafe in that area. So our goals was, we started small because we wanted a successful program. We provided 25 beds, hygiene items, and sometimes clothing, a warm breakfast every day, which either came from community volunteers or the church parish. A lot of different churches really wanted to get involved, but it kind of varied. And then to collect data so that we could let people know whether or not this was effective and hopefully spread it out more for the next coming winter, and establish some stronger connections between faith communities, these mutual aid groups, Rise, the nonprofit shelter, and businesses and people living in Washoe County. And then we also wanted to maybe dispel some of the misconceptions about who exactly we're talking about when we talk about people that are surviving outside in the winter. So the way that we implemented this was, I brought it to the board of directors and asked, hey, we're doing okay. Is there a way that we can earmark $30,000? I will do my best to, get some community funds as well, to create this initiative, because we know that the women and families that are experiencing homelessness, we are the only shelter that they would be able to get into anyway, and we knew we were going to be full. So these are future clients of ours, right? If we can see who the other clients are, then maybe we can make a case for having an expansion of our program. The reason we chose 25 beds is because smaller shelter models are the ones that are proven to work. That's why we're seeing some of the issues that we're seeing at CARES, but we don't see it at in facilities that are under 30 people. So my friend Ilya, who was not able to come here, is Ward 3 now board member. And I met with the faith leaders and came up with an agreement for them and their churches to keep them safe. Basically, we would provide the volunteers, trained staff, training for the volunteers, and put them on our insurance. And then the churches would provide a welcoming, safe, and warm environment overnight from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. So those are the agreements. And then we decided to do weekly. We switched over every Tuesday, and Tuesday afternoon, we would have volunteers come. We would use that home project van and move all the supplies, cots, and sleeping bags from one location to another. And then we would also continue doing outreach. We did it not just with the folks that are living outside at these various distributions, driving around town. We also made sure to speak to fire departments, EMTs, people that are in the areas, private security guards that we just already saw in these areas in the middle of the night, right? If we know, especially in the beginning, there weren't that many people showing up. And so we're like, all right, well, let's hit the streets and figure this out. So now we're talking to a security guard that's probably going to end up calling law enforcement. Now we're, $300 into taxpayer funds, just calling to let someone know that there's someone on a property, but we haven't really solved anything. That person doesn't have a bed to sleep in, and they're probably going to par at $40 a night also. So instead of that, we gave them information, hey, bring them to the Catholic Church or Trinity or whatever, or let us know and we'll come get them. And then it costs $0 to do that. So that's always nice. And then we also made sure to inform city staff and everybody like that that's working on the ground, and hospitals. That was also a huge thing, because oftentimes people come in from the cold with minor injuries or even sometimes major injuries, but they don't have the resources to keep them overnight, and they're often just kind of like left outside. So there were several people that we had to pick up from hospitals or hospital staff calling us to ask if we were open, which was great knowing that it got out there. Next slide, please. So as I said, it was 25 cots from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. And then in the morning, we did a warm handoff. In this line of work, the most important thing is warm interactions. Like Chief Nance was talking about, public trust is the most important thing, especially when you're dealing with someone who's experiencing homelessness. Usually outreach, I believe that they outreach with the police department and city of Reno. They report 6 to 12 interactions is what it takes for someone to accept a service. In this case, it was 0 interactions because they came to us, which really shows the blanket of this whole thing is what it's showing is that there was a service that is needed that involves 0 interaction, 0 taxpayer dollars, that just is a hole where people go and find that service. So when we talk about resistant to services, sometimes the service that they need doesn't exist. So in this case, we found where that one of those holes is. We did do an online training, and we kept that available and made sure that folks did a trauma-informed care training, a Narcan training, let us know if they had any other peer support certifications, CPR, et cetera. But then also we made sure to have 3 RISE staff members who are already used to working with this population, already knew most of the people that they saw, unless they were new folks that weren't in the system. And just to make sure that we aren't now becoming a call to service for people and making a situation worse. Also, I'm happy to report we did have 0 calls to service during the entire 3 months. Which was pretty remarkable. We did have 2 calls from REMSA. One was like a frostbite issue. Another person was diabetes complications. We had no fights. People also took a de-escalation training. But that was a wonderful thing. And then we were able to build some really nice rapport with some of these folks where now if I see them outside, I'm confident that if there were some kind of altercation, I could talk to this person by name, take them across the street for a cup of coffee. And at the end of the day, that's really what is needed, is those kind of just regular human interactions that don't involve someone that is a salaried staff member. And it doesn't necessarily have to involve a peer support specialist or a mental health person. It's just about these community relationships sometimes. So cleanliness was the big thing. During this time, there was several viruses going on, including, COVID, but lots of really severe upper respiratory diseases. I know there was some kind of gastrointestinal thing happening. Bed bugs were being reported at the shelters, but we did not have any of those problems. One of the reasons I think is that we encouraged, we made sure that staff and volunteers knew that it was up to them, but I would wear gloves, wash my hands often, maybe wear a mask if you're hearing coughing. Also, they were kind of separate from the people that were sleeping in their sleeping area. So for instance, if we were in this room, the lights would be off and that door would be open and we would just be sitting kind of like at the entrance to make sure so you're not in the area where everyone's breathing, because folks are obviously sick with multiple things. And then we also, no one reused any bedding even once. It didn't matter whether or not they touched it, whether they unraveled the sleeping bag or not. We washed every single thing once it was used for one night. And I think that really helped take contamination down. And then we provided the sleeping bags and we provided the cots. No one was able to take their own personal items into the area where they were sleeping, but they were able to just leave them right outside where volunteers and staff were. That also helped, if anyone had some kind of contraband or anything like that, they're not allowed to revisit their things when they came into the center. And once they came out, if they wanted to touch their stuff or they wanted to leave the center, that was it for the night. And that's fine. No hard feelings. You can come back tomorrow, but there's no coming and going and that kind of, I'm sure we can all understand why. Next slide, please. So this is the guest data and I would like to apologize. It looks like I have one color wrong. That dark blue color should be green. So this was the most interesting part to me. It's pretty evenly spread out, except for the one that's someone staying 84 consecutive nights. However, people did, and that was an interesting number to me. Another one is that we had 23.6% stayed over 30 days, 23.6 stayed over a week, and 28.2 stayed one night, but this number was very interesting. The 20.9% had never accessed any homeless services. And let's remember again, these are women and families. That means they've never been to CARES, they've never gotten a ticket, they've never been to the food bank, they've never done any of these things that HMIS, which is the human management system that all of these agencies use to give us the data that tells us how many homeless people we have in the area. They weren't in there. And so we found 20 women and families that otherwise didn't exist according to, the data that we're capturing, which is kind of a red flag, right? But a really wonderful thing because we were able to, catch these people that might not have otherwise, really made it through the winter. Next slide, please. So this is what the volunteer data looked like. We used an email address that wasn't affiliated with anything. It was just Good Neighbors Reno, so that it wasn't, no one was skewed. It wasn't like friends of me or friends of someone else. It was just a brand new email address, and 416 organic signups came from that, which was really incredible and a beautiful thing to see from the Reno community. 47 of those people volunteered more than 3 times. And again, we're talking in middle of the night shift, a 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. shift, which is awesome in some cases. And then 11 did 6 or more shifts and 3 were rock stars and did overtime shifts. So that was the volunteer data. And then we all want to know, what did it cost? So like I said earlier, we started with this 30,000 number, and right off the bat, we got $6,800 in community donations. We just sourced those through social media. So this wasn't even going to banks, going to other funds. It was really ad hoc. We didn't have, a ton of staff or anybody working on it. This was just pure social media donations. And then employee wages were our highest cost, obviously, which is good because we have trained staff, and that's the key. We had 3 trained staff, so it was $23,772. 3,000 in contract expenses, which is just the project management of the whole thing, who's on call the whole time and making sure that all of the moving pieces are working. Only $576 in laundry, which we reimburse to people. In the future, if we could find one laundromat or one laundry service, I think that might have worked better, and been maybe a cost savings. It was only $600 for the liability insurance to cover all the churches. And then we bought the supplies, sleeping bags, cleaning and hygiene things for $2,000. There was $104 in PayPal fees, which was just what we used to reimburse the volunteers. Next year, we won't have to buy sleeping bags, much of the cleaning and hygiene, so that expense will go down. So we went over by 100, but then also Rise only had to spend that 23,000, so we were under budget as far as Rise goes. And again, this was something that we decided we were going to do it for sure the last week of November, and we opened the first night of the warming center December 11th. So it was like no time to do any of these things. We were fundraising as we were running the project. Next slide, please. So this is what we came up with. The most surprising was the 23 guests that weren't found in the HMIS. If we extended the shelter to service the people that we weren't allowing in our particular warming center, which would be single men, couples, and people with pets, we would probably find even more people that we aren't even including in the data, which is not, we're not here to blame anyone, but this is a problem. We need to know how many people we have in order to effectively solve the problem. And we know by even running ad hoc for 3 months that we missed 20. So if we add all of these other people, if we even have 20 of each of these other people, now we have 100 extra people that we haven't even been allocating, you know, where do they go and where do these beds go? So then we did some brainstorming sessions while we did it. We met almost once a week with all the faith leaders, with volunteering, with Rise, just to make little adjustments. Again, we were building the plane as we were flying it, kind of thing. And then we just, Ilya, my friend, and I troubleshot laundry volunteers. Sometimes it was like, oh, there's no volunteers signed up, what do we do? And it just ended up being a quick social media thing, or we would show up ourselves or whatever. That would be a thing that would be remedied by having planning for the next year. And in the future, we would like to have a common computer or a tablet, which we tried to get, but we're not able to get through the city. And that would have to come from a city or county agency so that we had access to that HMIS data. So we could put those people in that system and they could be counted. And then additional hosting sites that could separate these other communities would have made it so that we wouldn't have seen anyone probably outside, and we can also get them to other services easier. There were a few people that we were able to get into Rise Shelter, into the Women's and Family Shelter, because they came to the warming center. So that's a connection to service that we want to see. And that it might be easier and more efficient to move churches monthly rather than weekly, but that was just kind of like, because it was a toll on us, that might have been more volunteers or something like that. And so, yeah, so by all indicators, we think that this was a successful pilot program and a good contribution to community safety and well-being for the past winter. And we do plan on doing it for next year and for hopefully the following years with more time to prepare a solid, activated, and dependable base of volunteers and partner organizations that are ready and eager to work together again. And we'd love to open similar programs in other wards and Washoe and Sparks. And Reno, and because the need to stay warm and survive the winter is not limited to downtown, though we see a lot of focus on that. That is still a problem in your ward as well. And we would like to see some warming centers that serve single men, couples, and people with pets. But for that, we would need many more people involved, more partners, more willing facilities. Churches were really great because they're just used to that, and that's kind of the idea of a church. That's, you know. And more community goodwill, which is why we are here with you all presenting today. And then the last slide is just a thank you. It should say questions, but this, if you would like to, we have a thank you party for the volunteers. River School Farm has donated their space on June 29th. Anyone is welcome to come. It is free, but we do have an option to give a high five to one of the workers, which is $5. And you can come and meet some of the other people that that are like-minded or just that worked on this, meet some of the faith leaders and just a whole other group of people where a lot of us did not know each other. And then it also has like a little bit of a survey, and we'll put you on a mailing list if you'd like, for certain things, like you can pick what things you want to be notified about. And then if you have any questions, I'd love to chat. Somebody wants to chat that's not here.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Kelly Orr for the record. We'll now open questions to the board. Kelly Orr for the record. I have one with your last statement with RISE wanting to expand to different areas. Have you noticed a certain area in the wards that may benefit first? Has there been any studies or projected projects for that?
There have been studies, and specifically Ward 1 is the ward that has the most people experiencing homelessness. It also has the most renters and folks that are in the low to no income range. And so that is why we decided that area. And it's also where most of those calls to service are. Doesn't mean that it's not other places, but usually it's where in any city where you're seeing a large population of people experiencing homelessness, they are mostly where the people are, where other resources are, where the bus station is, where the 24-hour corner store is, that kind of thing.
Wonderful, thank you. If any other board member has any questions?
A question, Victoria Lett for the record. So I'm pretty involved in a Catholic church that's not in, I don't think they're Ward 1. It's around Keystone, but I be involved in the school as well, so that's attached to the, and they do drives all the time. So if I could get information from you that I could bring to our.
Sure. If you don't mind, Jennifer has the presentation now, so she can, give it to all of you so you know. And again, it doesn't have to be RISE or anything like that. RISE is a component because that is what made these specific churches feel comfortable as far as insurance goes. This can happen however you negotiate with the people holding the space.
Was there something out here? I guess that's another.
No, this was just downtown.
Your radar that is something that we can do as a board to help you out here.
You could talk to some of the churches about doing something out here or a school. Those are places that are great because insurance companies are familiar with doing this in other areas, usually with churches and schools, just because the liability is a little different, the facilities are different. But yeah, I would love to help advise and find folks that are in your area, because a lot of the time it's like maybe people wanted to volunteer overnight 4 hours, but they live in Ward 4 and they don't want to be driving at 3 a.m. So maybe you have a whole other group of volunteers. So yeah, I'd love to help with that.
Rebecca Flannery for the record. So this is amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know women and children, it's hard for them to get somewhere. So I guess my question is this kind of like an overnight thing just for them to sleep? Or do you guys give them options like, let's get you set up here so that, you can have a residence to be able to get a job, or do they get to shower, or is it just like it kind of,
that would be what we'd want. Yeah, that was the only facility that we were offered was overnight, 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. And that's just how our agreement went. It would be great to have all of those things. But this is like real triage people living outside. 2 of the families, they came in, both of them are families over 5, and the youngest person was 3 months old, and they were not in HMIS. Both of the families were not in. A lot of the reason that this happens is because there's a lot of weird history as far as law enforcement and social services with families, and people are afraid they're going to get their kids taken away. That's not the case, because they can't take them anywhere because the foster care and everything is also full. But dispelling that myth is not my job right now. What we tried to do is just keep folks there as long as we could, call on the shelters to see if they had room. But if there's no room, the only service we were able to provide was overnight. They're welcome to come back.
Question, is it just an overnight thing, or does it go a little bit longer?
No. And then one of the downtown church is also shared with a school. So we absolutely had to be gone by 6 a.m. So unfortunately, no, but that doesn't mean that that's not something that, could be done in the future.
What can we do for resources to help you get somewhere that's more permanent?
Right. What could we do? Right, so Rise did just, as far as our organization, we did just we are about to open Crossroads Families. But that'll already be full. That's only room for 5 more families. So as far as like, do we have the will in the community and the expertise to run another shelter, even if it's or permanent supportive housing or temporary emergency housing? Absolutely. Do we have like necessarily the political will? Maybe not. Would something like this happen much faster with community and business investment? Absolutely. That was the only reason we haven't done this for the last 4 years in a row is because we thought we had this idea that we had to partner with the city or the county to make it happen. And it just turned out we were like, okay, let's just do it and see what happens, right? So that's sometimes the way it is. The red tape kind of goes away once you do it privately.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kelsey Meno for the record. Will the warming center continue next winter?
Yes.
Awesome. And then what kind of support would be most helpful from the city or county in the future?
That tablet would have been so helpful. Yeah, some kind of way for us to get, so that we could have even just our staff get these numbers in and be able to like cross-check folks and see if there are some things, because some people like, maybe they were eligible to go back to a place, but they think that they're kicked out of a place, but they would be willing to go back to those kinds of things, needs that people had. Transportation would have been really helpful. There were a couple of times that we did call ambassadors to pick people up. We had some folks that were in wheelchairs and it took like 6 hours. And that person was just sitting outside in the snow for 6 hours. And like, it was my understanding that that's what ambassadors are for, like to do specifically that. So that would have been really helpful. And transparency, I think, is the other thing. We had someone from the CARES campus that had been assaulted, and one of the most team officers email asking if we could help. We said yes. And then when they were asked about it, they reported that there were no assaults at CARES campus. So like, that's not helpful. At some point, we're not pointing fingers, but we do need accurate information so that we can help these folks. And the biggest population, every single woman that visited had reported being assaulted like this year, like recent assaults. And a lot of them saying that is why we see some people using stimulants and things like that, because they're literally trying to stay awake so that they don't get assaulted overnight. And that's kind of the reality that we see. And that's one of the myths that I would like to help dispel, is that, people aren't having fun doing drugs in a lot of situations. Are like literally it's survival. And same thing with, sex work and things like that. It's more of a survival mechanism rather than like someone making a bad choice.
And then, were there any indicators that staying at the warming center helped people access more permanent services or housing?
There were a couple, however, most of those services are full. There was 1 or 2 people. There was one person that works at Tesla that had to use the warming center, which I find ironic. Yeah, because that's how expensive housing is. One of the more remarkable improvements that I noticed was mental health. There were some people that were literally speaking to people that were not there and not verbal to anyone in front of them when they came in, and after 5 nights of actual sleep, like, oh, hello ma'am, how are you? Oh, my name's Candace. Like, actually just huge cognitive developments just over just a good night's sleep and knowing they're waking up safe and having a little meal. And I think that was just really remarkable. I didn't realize that it was just that. I learned a lot, even as somebody who's like pretty entrenched in researching this kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that had we had the services, the behavioral health services, most of these folks I would not call employable. You wouldn't want them to come, even if they got the good night's sleep and if they had a fresh pair of clothes. I don't think a lot of these people, a lot of them were experiencing severe mental health disorders, and I was impressed that they even figured out how to get there every time and that we were moving the shelter every time. One other thing I didn't mention is that one of the churches, Good Faith Lutheran, has a parishioner that works at the UNR medical student medical department, and they brought down the student medics twice, and those people were actually able to receive free healthcare which is amazing, but that was mainly the thing. Lots of people with infections, with regular medical care that they need, and but not severe enough to stay overnight in a hospital. And so that's where we see like these folks are coming out of the hospital, they're either getting arrested or going back to the hospital or staying outside, and it's just this cycle, right? So we were able to kind of cap that off at least and keep them inside, help with wound care and things like that, and at least they didn't go back to the hospital for 84 nights. But I can't guarantee that that didn't happen.
And then I just have one more question. From your experience, what are the main barriers that the municipalities like the city and the county are preventing from stepping up with additional shelter space or support? Like what is preventing them from doing that you've experienced and that you've seen?
Housing and political will. Unfortunately, fortunately, we have studied this a lot, and there has been study worldwide. And unfortunately, when these things get brought to the legislature, last session I brought a homelessness bill that established community courts instead of going to jail. So I did try to do that, but then that gets caught up into now this person's just like in the court system, and if they don't show up, then they go to jail. So it didn't really do even what I wanted it to do. But unfortunately, these things turn into studies, and studies cost money, and we don't need to study it anymore. The cure to homelessness is healthcare and housing. These people need housing. A lot of them, if we could have set up, we have done in the past like a motel program where we have people checking on, we have a community volunteer that has experience, and they are in charge of 3 rooms and making sure they're like the dorm RA or whatever for these 3 rooms, making sure there's not people coming in and out or whatever. And some of these folks are able to then, go out and even go to Social Security or, get their mail somewhere or whatever. Maybe go out and get a job if they're able, but it's really that folks need consistent, safe places to sleep to even make the next move. You need those initial things. You need to know where you're sleeping, where your food is coming from, and that you're safe, and to go get a job or to go sign up for disability or anything like that. You just can't think about anything else. Thank you.
Here's the meeting for the record. I just lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
Were you able to guide any of them to like places for like their mental health when they needed it?
There aren't. The problem is, it's even if, yeah, the places that exist are full and at capacity. So this is a situation where like there are no services. And so I think the biggest reason that we wanted to do this was to show that, to have you kind of perk your ear up when you hear this resistant to services thing. There isn't a service to resist. So we're saying this person's getting a trespassing thing because they won't go to CARES. Well, there were no beds. Why would they go to CARES? So they could sit straight up in the daylight, and not get any sleep, or they were just assaulted. Why would they go back to where they were assaulted? Or they want to be in the family home. Well, we have a list of 30 right now, and it was nice today. So it's like these resistance to services is not a correct term because the service didn't exist. So this was like, no one had to write anyone a ticket to come to this. People found it and walked straight to it and walked in on purpose. And that's what you want to see. There's Puff House in that area in Ward 1, 2. They're not overnight. We just had that behavioral health clinic is closed now. That's in that area. We are at a situation that like we don't have anywhere to refer. So when you see someone on the side of the road talking to themselves, there isn't a service for them. It just doesn't exist. There is nowhere also for people who can't perform their assisted daily livings. That's your ADL. There's nowhere for them. So that means if you cannot shower and use the restroom and feed yourself, you may not even go to CARES campus. You can't go anywhere. So what we're unfortunately seeing is that like the most vulnerable, the people in the most need have 0 beds, right? The Eddie House, even a wonderful organization, you have to be 18. There are 0 beds for children. And there are many teens experiencing homelessness. Nevada has the highest number of teens experiencing homelessness. So, we got to get really real about what services we have and what needs to be expanded.
Jennifer Alvarez, Council Relations Liaison for the record. Is there any email address that our NAB members can email you with additional questions?
Yeah, you can email goodneighborsreno@gmail.com. And that's where we keep all of the good neighbors people. And then two, I really encourage you to come to the volunteer welcome party. Just to get to know some of these other people and we can brainstorm together what we need to do. Like it can look, there are lots of ideas. I also wanted to let you know, I co-authored this in-depth guide to homelessness in Washoe County where we evaluated some of the programs a couple of years ago. We talk about the cost per bed and what we're actually doing here. One of the things is CARES Campus is the most expensive at $68 a night per bed. So like, what does it look like if we have certain people just sponsor 5 hotel rooms? That's cheaper than $68 a night, you know, then we put 2 people in each room. All of a sudden it's half as expensive with a shower and all of this and safety and all the things. So there's stuff we can do and we're gonna need to figure out what to do that doesn't rely on consistent government funding also. Because we're not seeing that happening right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I have hard copies of both of these things too.
So I just wanted to, Councilmember Eber, for the record, just want to thank you for coming out and giving this presentation. And just so people know, I did try to help with this process. The city of Reno, though, is legally not allowed, was the information I was given, to operate in this space. That it is the function of the county through NRS Nevada revised statutes to do that. So that was a roadblock that we ran into. So I'm just so grateful that Lily took the initiative to work outside of that and make all those things happen. I did have a question about the tablet or laptop. You said that the information needs to be kind of synced up with the county resources. Is that something like, do you need, like, you physically need a laptop or you just need access?
So all of your outreach workers, so I will say one thing about that, about the stipulation is that if that were true, then outreach also couldn't happen. And so outreach can somehow happen and ticketing can somehow happen through the city, but remedying the reason that we're ticketing can't, and that's not outlined in that ordinance. So like, they actually can. And they do quite a bit with homelessness. If, you know, when they want to. So that is, your outreach people all have a tablet. All of your clean and safe team, your park rangers, they have a tablet that all has this HMIS. So when they go up to someone, they are able to write in their name and look them up and see what services they've accessed. County has the same thing. That's the only thing that's streamlined between county, Sparks, and City of Reno. And it did ask several times. City manager, and I know a lot was going on, but you know, that would have been crucial. We were able to capture the data on our own, but good data is invaluable.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate seeing you.
Thank you. This is, oh my goodness, this is the most beautiful place to have a meeting on earth. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now that we've concluded excuse me, I've lost my space. Just 1 second. Now that we've concluded the business items, we'll now move on to development projects. First item is C1 7720 Security Circle for discussion only.
And again, there is no presentation in your packet. It was provided to me after hours, so I'm pulling it up now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jacobson, if you would like to give a presentation, could you please accept the promotion to be a panelist?
Hello?
We can hear you. All right, if you could start your presentation.
Okay. I'm sorry, your voice was very low, so I couldn't hear you say start, but Yes, I'm proposing or applying for a zone change at 7720 Security Circle. It's in North Reno and it's a industrial property that has been there since about 1996. And I would like to follow the recommendations of the planning department and bring the property into the current master plan zoning of mixed, is it mixed? I think it's mixed commercial. No, I'm sorry, I'm just not that familiar with the terminology here, but yeah, mixed employment. Go from mixed use to mixed employment. And as I said, it's to bring the property into conformance with the general plan, and the city planner had suggested that I do this because it's helpful to them, because they're trying to get all of the properties that are non-conforming with the new general plan into conformance, and they said this is the best way to do it for them. So here I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, does that conclude your presentation?
It does.
Are you now open for questions from the board?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Kelly Orr, for the record, I don't have any questions at this time. I'd like to pass it on to my board members for any comment or questions.
Victoria Love, for the record, what is your building used for currently?
Currently, it's vacant and it's available for lease. And we are talking with some different potential tenants, but it's been a little while. We are hoping to just get something that is conforming with the zoning code. And from what I've seen, there's not a lot of difference between the existing and the recommended or the master plan zoning, with the exception that housing, I guess, is the main difference, that housing is allowed under mixed use suburban, and the mixed employment does not allow housing. And this is really not an appropriate site for housing. Number one, it already has that industrial building on it. And number two, it's surrounded by industrial properties, with the exception of property on the other side of Virginia Street, which is residential.
That concludes it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And Mr. Jacobson, you also provided a map. Would you like me to share that as well?
I believe it is. I think it's attached at the bottom of my written presentation. It should be there. And it's as I said, it's on Security Circle, and it's right behind the 7-Eleven that's at Virginia and Security Circle, if you're familiar with that.
We've had, Jared Souther, for the record, we had a neighboring property presented to us in the last 6 months. I think the Furukawa Rock Drill USA was here, and as I look at your neighboring property or the 7-Eleven, I'm under the assumption that that will be closing or changing ownership when they open the new 7-Eleven down the street, but you just have that one parcel that you own, is that correct?
Well, if you look at the map, I own A, B, and C. So I don't own the 7-Eleven, but I'm adjacent to it, behind it.
Laura Sabini, for the record. Did you say that one of them was already being used for residential?
No, they've never been used for residential, so,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
So is parcel A the only one that's out of conformity, or are you needing to do anything with B and C as well?
Yes, everything in that area, there should be a zoning map attached to that as well, which would be helpful. But all of those properties in that whole quadrant have the same zoning, but they're all master planned for the zoning that I'm applying for.
Does anybody have any more questions?
Yeah. Councilmember Ebert for the record. So the map that we're looking at, there's parcel B and C are in red, parcel A is in yellow. Is there a reason why those have different colors on them if they're all zoned the same and need to be zoned the same?
Well, that's a good question, but there is no particular reason that I know of for that. I had to get some help making this map because I don't have the graphics capability on my computer. And so I don't know why those are different colors, but it's common ownership. It's the same zoning. And
So they're currently, what are they currently zoned as?
they're currently zoned as mixed use suburban
And you want to change the zoning
to mixed employment.
Okay. And you said that this change brings that zoning into conformance with the master plan?
That's correct.
So are there any fees associated with this change in zoning request?
No, they're not. Normally, I understand that there are fees, but because the city planning department wants this to get done and they're trying to encourage property owners to do it, they're waiving all fees. And so, I really don't have any other reason to do it besides that. And I just figure it's to my benefit to get this out of the way and get it done, and then it won't come up again. But as far as my anticipated uses, I don't have any use in mind that would not work in either zone.
So thank you. I just wanted to call that out that there is the way the city of Reno is incentivizing property owners to change their zoning into conformance with the master plan is by waiving those fees to do so. And you said you don't have any plans yet for any development there, any projects? It's just because the request of the city of Reno?
That's correct. The property A and B have always been used together. And that's because it's kind of a natural fit. And the only way you can really get to property B is through property A. And I think it was subdivided. You can see it like a little, what might be planned as a driveway out to Virginia. But it's so steep that it doesn't conform to the building code for the grade. It's too steep to be used.
Yeah.
And it's just I don't know why they did it like that, but.
Okay, so are there plans to sell these parcels once the zoning is changed, or, I mean, besides?
No, I don't have any plans for that.
Is there any motivating factor?
No, just as I say, so we had to do some minor work in the building. Like we added some truck doors or some roll-up doors that had been removed by the previous tenant. And it just came up in discussions with the planner that something about the zoning and it's not in conformance with the general plan. And the planner Carter Williams he's really been helpful, and he's very nice to work with. And he just suggested that I would consider doing this. And, even though I had to prepare all this documentation and I'm spending money to post signs and taking up my time on these meetings, it really is just to, I guess, help out the planning department and just to kind of get things in order on that property.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. This concludes the development projects. Are there any other board commission committee members or announcements?
Jared Souther for the record. Today was the last day for feedback from NDOT for phase 2 improvements, enhancements. And I hope each of you had an opportunity to maybe raise your voice and share concerns because they're starting to do design. Final designs due, I think, later this year or into next year, and then start construction. I think so. I will say also, I had an opportunity on April 1st to attend their public meeting at O'Brien Middle School, and I spoke. And that presentation is available on YouTube from NDOT. Not tonight, we're short on time, but I definitely would love to share in the future.
And Mr. Souther, you shared Jennifer Alvarez, Council Relations Liaison for the record. You shared an email with NABS. Would you like me to distribute that to the NAB members?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board commission committee member reports and announcements. Is that all that we have for the night?
That is correct, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. Moving forward to future agenda items. I'll now open the floor for the board to request future agenda items.
Sorry, like for the record, I want to put on future agenda item for Jared to have time to kind of give us a little update on anything that he feels would be factual information for us.
Thank you.
Our final item of the evening is public comment. Staff liaison Jennifer, is there any final public comment?
Jennifer Alvarez, Council Relations Liaison for the record. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the NAB's agenda. The NAB may not take action upon any matter not agendized on today's agenda. When you are called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name and you will be afforded 3 minutes. If you're an attendee in the Zoom meeting and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand at this time. Seeing none, is there anyone from the public that would like to give public comment? There is no additional public comment, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. I'm now looking to adjourn the meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
John White moves, we adjourn the meeting.
Can I get a second?
Melissa Benning seconds.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. This concludes the Ward 4 Neighborhood Advisory Board meeting. Thank you guys so much for letting me fumble through my first presentation. Thank you.
Bye, Kelly. Thank you.
Bye. Good night, everybody.
Good job, Kelly.
Thank you.